Inspections, seizures, and now social media searches. Crossing the American border just got even more personal. I'm Ben Mulroney. The West Block starts right now. Travel warnings. The U.S. is now officially looking at diving into some travelers' social media accounts at the border. 5 years of it. We speak with former American and Canadian border officials in 2 minutes. And looking like the brink of war, Donald Trump ups the ante in a huge way against Venezuela.
The Trump administration is executing on the president's sanction policies.
We have a former Canadian ambassador to the country coming up. Crossing American borders has been contentious enough this year. Now, the next step in the Trump administration's crackdown is getting even more personal. Washington wants some visitors to submit 5 years of social media information before being considered for entry. It's currently open for public comments. On paper, a small fraction of Canadians could be affected, but on the ground, could that widen? Joining us now is Keith Cozine, a former U.S. border agent and current professor of Homeland Security. Professor, thank you so much for being here. Let's jump right in. The Department of Homeland Security is asking the public to weigh in right now, but potentially, who could be affected by this new rule?
Primarily, it's going to be the citizens of visa waiver countries who will be subject to submitting additional information, including names of relatives with birth dates, social media accounts, and emails that they've utilized over the past 10 years. So it's specifically those 42 countries who are part of the visa waiver program.
So those on ESTA, the electronic system for travel authorization, but could some Canadians still be affected by this?
Well, ESTA is specific to the visa waiver countries. Where I think Canadians could potentially be affected by it is the EU is currently putting in their own pre-travel authorization. And if they decide that they're going to go ahead and input similar requirements for citizens of the UK or Canada or the United States who have visa-free travel to Europe and are requesting the same information from them, that's how it's kind of backdoor would be affecting Canadian citizens.
So how would it actually even work?
Well, that's my big question with it is whether or not it's actually a good tool. Let's focus on the social media. If they're going to take the social media site and put it into a big data system and have it scrubbed for keywords or phrases, then you're just creating another signals versus noise problem that always plagues all different types of intelligence. Yeah. If U.S. Customs and Border Protection is one of the largest gatherers of data within the U.S. government, and they utilize that data not just for security reasons, but also to facilitate legitimate trade and travel. They use that data to kind of screen out those people that they think potentially can cause a risk. So if one of those people are identified and you have somebody who's a trained OSINT analyst who can then go look at the social media accounts of the specific individuals and exploit them properly to see, is there any useful information? If that's how it's being utilized, then I think it's a good idea.
But in real life, practically, on the front lines, could technically anyone be asked for all their social media information?
Yes, because it's just every individual is subject to a border search, including U.S. citizens. And the court system within the United States has said repeatedly that, there is no warrant needed for a border search. Yeah. So yes, even U.S. citizens could be subject to having their social media accounts asked for it, or even their electronic devices say, give me the password to your iPhone so I can look what's on there.
But I think a lot of people are getting hung up on why this administration feels that the social media aspect of it all is so important.
I think there's been some cases, including one in Canada, where you had people who were either issued visas or issued admissions, and they had, links to certain organizations on their social media, very clearly on their social media. So I think that's part of it. my timing myself, I question a little bit, like adding this new layer when we're about ready to start the World Cup here in the United States and not too far down the road, the Olympics. So I'm not quite sure about the timing of it. Beyond that, I can't really comment on why this particular administration chose this particular time.
But walk me through the next step then. If somebody disagreed with the administration online in their social media posts, do you honestly think that could affect their ability to get through the border?
Well, I don't think it should. I don't think whether it would or should are two separate questions. I don't think it should. But would it? I can't answer that question. It would be a concern I have. But when it comes to people's opinions on things, not just this administration, but every administration has a wide range of latitude, particularly when it comes to even people who've already been admitted to the United States. The Secretary of State can revoke somebody's visa because their presence in the United States or their admission into the United States would have adverse consequences on our foreign policy. And it's a very broad power, and it's been utilized by this administration recently. And that person or individuals will end up in removal proceedings.
Professor, what do you think the likelihood of this actually coming to fruition is, and when?
I don't know what the plan is for the administration, how the implementation process is. We just recently had the case of now requiring photographs of people entering the United States, but also leaving the United States. There isn't the infrastructure for that program. Even DHS has said putting this into real implementation is going to take 3 to 5 years just at the airports. So
yeah.
Giving a timeline, it's hard to say. I think, honestly, a lot of it is security theater. We're putting this out there to make our people feel safe, but how effective it is going to come down to implementation.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Now, what's the view of this from the Canadian side of the border? And to add to the border confusion, snowbirds planning on heading south for more than 30 days are getting mixed messages on how they're able to cross. Registration, fingerprints, photos, and extra fees have all been raised. And to help us through all this, we're joined next by former Canadian border agent and current professor of criminology at Mount Royal University, Kelly Sundberg. Professor, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what were your initial thoughts when you heard about these possible social media searches at the border?
It's pretty concerning. When we start looking at deciding who can come into a country based on your social media behavior, I find that quite intrusive. I can understand that probably someone thought that it was a way of looking at extremist ideas and maintaining border security by preventing those with extreme ideas that are not U.S. citizens from entering the United States. But it's pretty shocking and it's unprecedented, pretty concerning. And I'm curious what other countries might impose similar restrictions on travel.
And 5 years of social media history, that's a long time, reaching back to the tail end of Donald Trump's first term. Does that surprise you?
Nothing surprises me with the Trump administration. However, this seems incredibly extreme. It does little for border security. They already have the apparatus in the United States to identify what people are saying and who they are. And frankly, if this is going to be a requirement for everybody, it's going to slow down the line for going into the United States. I can see in a very limited secondary environment where someone's being searched in a secondary area and they're non-citizen, or if they're applying for an immigration program, I actually see the validity in that. But for your average tourist crossing the border, it's pretty extreme.
Well, should Canadians be concerned, in your estimation, about this social media plan?
It's a very good question. I think it's important to remember when we as Canadians travel to countries that we are not citizens or permanent residents of, we're subject to that country's rules. And now this new proposed rule for the United States, where 5 years of our social media is going to be examined, does seem excessive. Nevertheless, Americans voted in Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president. Their system allows them to put in these rules. If Canadians want to travel to the United States, they know the rules that are in place. So I suppose it's good to know the rules before you go, not just on social media, but other aspects. But it's important if we want other countries to respect our democratic elected rules, our rules that our democratic government made in our sovereignty. People have to abide by our rules also when they're seeking entry. So it's difficult. I find them incredibly restrictive rules, but nevertheless, it is their rules, and they are a sovereign country. So if you want to go there, you need to follow their rules.
But is there anything specific to the snowbird experience? Because we've heard a lot of talk about people eschewing travel to the United States in favor of going somewhere else. But in the case of a lot of snowbirds, they own property down there. So not going down to the United States doesn't make any financial sense for them.
No, this is going to be an added burden for snowbirds. I think I was a border officer for a little over 15 years. A chunk of that sitting in the booth asking people questions. If the average traveler, I can't foresee them being an issue of concern. If someone is active, is an activist, and their activism is pointed toward the U.S. government or the president of the United States, that very well could be a concern, or could possibly limit their entry to the United States from these rules. And again, they are they're a little confusing at this point. But yeah, if this is going to be yet another barrier to Canadians entering the United States, and for snowbirds, I could see them perhaps moving their residences, thinking Mexico or Caribbean or other areas other than the United States. This is quite unprecedented.
A final question for you, Professor. Do you see the Trump administration border rules ramping up even beyond this?
I do think that there's going to be more attention put on Canadian travelers. There is some justification. Our country does not screen foreign nationals very well when they come into our country. There's a lot of individuals that are in our country that do pose a national security threat, not just to Canada, but to the United States. Our government has not put the safeguards in place. And what we've seen since the Donald Trump has assumed presidency again, it's been a lot of window dressing and not a lot of substance. So, I don't know what's going to come down the pipe, but there are justifications for the Americans to have concern with foreign nationals entering their country via Canada. And that has a lot to do with our government's failure to ensure our own immigration and border security, sadly.
Professor Sundberg, thank you very much for your insights today.
Thanks a lot for having me.